The topic of this session is the authenticity of value proposition and shared value creation in gastronomy tourism, collaboration as a source of innovation. So in this upcoming session, we will get to talk about cultural diversity as an element of value for tourists when choosing a destination, and also talk about how authenticity has become the new luxury that tourists are looking for when they book a trip. And here to moderate this session, I would like to invite up on stage Mr. Xu Jing. Mr. Xu Jing began his career in tourism at the China National Tourism Administration, where he was in charge of the International Relations Divisions. He joined the World Tourism Organization, or the UNWTO, in 1992 as officer to the regional representation for Asia and the Pacific, and now he is currently UNWTO's regional director for Asia and the Pacific, a position he has occupied since 2003. Mr. Xu Jing. And I also would like to invite our speakers up on stage, beginning with Ms. Sangeeta Singh, Head of National Association of Street Vendors of India, NASV, India. Sangeeta Singh advocates the cause of street vendors and along with the rights of women and children. She heads the street food program of the National Association of Street Vendors of India, or NASV. She consolidated the street food festival initiated by NASV and curates it yearly as a mega event. Sangeeta Singh. Joining us next on stage, Mr. Sarod Pornprapha, President of Dusit Thani College and the Director of Operation Thailand of Dusit Education. Sarod Pornprapha has a PhD in hospitality industry and is an expert in the subject of organizational behavior, leadership, business ethics, and business negotiation. He is recognized widely for his teaching career and his research both at a national and international level. Sarod Pornprapha. And last but not least, joining us on the panel, Mr. Sriram Vaidya, Head of Airbnb Experiences for Southeast Asia and India. Mr. Sriram Vaidya runs the Airbnb Trips business for Southeast Asia and India, based in Singapore. He is tasked with building thriving communities of experienced hosts and entrepreneurs and growing Airbnb's presence as a hospitality leader across the region. Mr. Sriram. All right, we have our panelists and our moderator on stage. I would like to pass this microphone to Mr. Xu Jing, our moderator. All yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It seems today I can't do the MC. So I was thinking whether I can stand up or I have to sit, being 100% moderator rather than semi-MC and semi-moderator like yesterday. But you guys must have done similar things. In the morning, you must have sweat, and you had a big lunch. I didn't sweat because I was going through a series of bilateral meetings in the morning, but I had a big lunch as well. So I'm actually quite sleepy. So if you allow me, I will just stand, just make sure that I don't sleep, and also to get a little bit of a symbolic sign that you guys don't fall asleep as well. You heard from the MC just now that this particular session, that according to the time slot, that we are going to spend about an hour and a half. But I don't think our distinguished speakers wanted that much time unless you guys are interactive. So let's do a little bit of a partnership in the next 70 to 80 minutes. You heard the title of this session, and if you go into your program, perhaps this session, I would go for 3 keywords. You heard from the MC something about cultural identity or cultural diversity. So perhaps the first keyword, ladies and gentlemen, must be about diversity. And second, you heard about authenticity. And the third, you heard something related to product development or product. So perhaps in our next 1 hour or so, these three keywords of diversity, authenticity, as well as the product should go through this whole idea of the so-called value propositions. So let's look at it not necessarily from the economic side of it, but more so from the social and cultural side of these three words. And I don't want to delay the excitement of listening to our speakers. So let me first of all invite to the podium Ms. Sanjita Singh. She is the head of the National Association of Street Vendors of India. So this is from a very unique perspective that let's hear her insights on this topic.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as speaker.
I didn't
really
hear
feel
any
happy.
hands. Can we do a little bit of welcome?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really feel happy that our work for community and street vendor is recognized, and street food vendors are considered as value proposition for gastronomy tourism. Thank you, UNWTO, for recognizing that fact. In my presentation, I'll be discussing how our work with community has brought positive changes, and engagement with them had brought lots of changes in policy. I'll talk a little about our organization because it is important to get an idea how bottom-up approach work when we work with community. I'll also discuss in my presentation about the innovative advocacy tool we developed using gastronomy. In my presentation, as Susie said, we'll talk about diversity, India being rich in diverse food culture. I'll also talk a little bit about how collaborating with different stakeholders brings positive ecosystem. I'll talk a little bit of training and skilling, how training and skilling can change the whole or transform the gastronomy tourism. I'll talk a little bit about technology. I'll not talk much on technology as we have not worked much on technology in community. And lastly, in my presentation, I'll end with a very positive note. So to begin with the slides, so this is the first slide which you can see. Says protecting livelihood, promoting culture. That's the theme we work on. When we talk about promoting culture or when we talk about promoting gastronomy, it cannot happen without protecting livelihood of the stakeholders. So that's the theme on which our organization works. So just cite an example how it doesn't work when this livelihood, protection, and promoting culture, if they do not marry, how things are changed and disturbed. I'll just cite two examples of India. So many of you might have heard about Goa, a very popular tourist destination. We trained 1,000 street food vendors there on hygiene, sanitation, behavioral changes, how to greet tourists, and everything was done. They all started practicing it, but it didn't sustain. The whole program, our whole training effort was crashed. It didn't sustain. Why? Because other system didn't work. So municipal corporations evicted just after training few days. So when we have to promote culture, we need to work in a framework, and a planned framework. As you see that food that empowers, this is basically a clipping of a newspaper of, I think, 2000 or 2014 or 15 program. And that year we had taken this as a theme, food that empowers. When I say I mean street food, that doesn't empower only vendors, it also empowers consumers, because consumer can get food at low cost, and it also empowers destinations, and it also empowers a national economy. Moving to our second slide, this is about our organization, National Association of Street Vendors of India, from where I come to. This was started 2 decades ago as an informal network, but now it is a structured network with around 900 affiliates. We work with around 1 million street vendors across India. Rough estimate says that India has around 2.5 billion street vendors, and amongst them, 1 billion are street food vendors. So many are still touched. We are unable to work with everyone. but we work with around 1 million street vendors in India. So as you can see that in 2014, we succeeded with our advocacy tool. We succeeded to get a law for street vendors. That was a great success. I think India is the only country where we have law for street vendors. We fought a lot, as you can see in the pictures of our organization. The first picture is about our AGM, which are held every year, when all the affiliates gather together. The second one is about one of our convention, and third one is about our executive committee. So we have a democratic system where street vendor representatives are part of office bearers. And these are the few photographs of our fights and demonstrations. This is a picture of a hunger strike. When we were struggling to get a law for street vendors, 50 street vendors sat for 5 days hunger strike, and finally in 2014, 19 October, we got the law for them. So we have fought a lot, we have won a lot, but challenges are still there. Even after 4 years of law, it is still not implemented in most part of the country. So challenges are still there. So this is the innovative tool we were talking about, National Street Food Festival. This is innovative advocacy tool. We start, as I said, there were lots of chaos in the country as related to livelihood. So when we organize seminars, workshops, and we invite policymakers and bureaucrats, they normally do not come, and they avoid that workshops because they might have to commit something. So we thought that why not use our strength, that's the food, to use it as a tool. So we started organizing street food festival along with our AGMs. As you can see in the first photograph of 2012, it was then Secretary Tourism who came to our festival and started thinking and started knowing about street food vendors, because a decade ago, or I can say 6-7 years ago, street food vendors were like untouchables. No policymaker, no food vendors wanted to talk about them or wanted to work on them. But with this festival, they started coming to our festival. This again, a gentleman was a chairman of Food Safety Authority. And this lady who played a very pivotal role, she was the minister then of housing and urban poverty elevation. She was there to inaugurate our festival. And when we were fighting for the act in parliament, she played pivotal role in getting our act. So she said, despite so much of objections from other parties, she said, no, we need to have a law for street vendors. And finally, we got a law in 2014. So again, these are the few photographs. This festival has become not just an advocacy. Now we have taken it from advocacy to an event. It is one of the event of national capital. It has become, as you can see from the picture, the first picture is showing a reputed minister with skill having food from street vendors. This again is a famous politician, Rahul Gandhi, coming to our festival. And fortunately, now we have foreign tourists too. In this picture, we can see that this gentleman in blue jeans and T-shirt is from Spain. He came to just attend our festival. So now this festival is attracting tourists. This festival is attracting locals and also media. These are all media. This is Master Chef Sanjeev Kapoor, and these are a few pictures of vendors selling food. So these are all media coverages. So we have got good coverage from media, and that has really helped. And then again, when this slides talk about preserving food culture. Street food vendors play a very important role when it comes to preserving food culture, because if some tourist goes to the place and he or she is not Google savvy, he or she is not techno savvy, cannot have an idea what food exactly she or he should have there. But if you go to the street food vendors, you can have clear-cut idea that is the local food. Because street food vendors provide local food at the destinations. And again, the food which street food vendors provide do not pinch your wallet. They're too economic and quick. So street food vendors play a very important role in preserving culture of the destination. This is, again, when we talk about gastronomy tourism, we cannot think just about a few numbers, and especially when it comes to India, which has a huge number of street food vendors. We cannot just have restaurants and hotels to be included, to be advertised, to be marketed. We need to work with these untapped resource, which is huge in number, as you can say that. Even in our country, gastronomy tourism, when we talk about gastronomy tourism, it never occurs that food vendors could be the key role players, because any destinations you name, and if you have been to India, if you avoid those places, that's different thing. But none of the destinations are without street vendors. So gastronomy tourism needs attention of local resource. We don't have to export chefs from other places, because they're already master chefs. These street vendors are really a master chef. We just need to organize them and put them in a better framework. So as you can see that many tourist destinations have many such service providers. We have few examples of India where gastronomy tourism is promoted through street vendors. Like in Ahmedabad, there is a night market, in Manik Chowk, Law Garden, in Sharafa Bazaar, but they are not as planned. So it attracts mainly the local tourists. Very few foreign tourists go there and visit. Now, fortunately, our Ministry of Tourism is working on it. They are working on developing iconic sites, and they're talking to us also how we can include street vendor in making an inclusive plan for them. So as you can see, these are the colorful pictures, vendors selling. So they're all around, wherever you go. So as our moderator was saying, we need to talk about diversity. And that diversity is the strength. And when we talk about India, diversity really means a lot. So in my first slide, if you can see the photographs, it's the photographs of pulao, the rice variety. So we have diverse rice variety. So we cannot say that if they are diverse, they are not authentic. We cannot say that the biryani of Hyderabad is better than biryani of Malabar, or biryani of Malabar is better than one which is in northern part of India, the Kashmir. So we have diverse food items, and that's our strength. We consider it. That's our strength. Similarly, when we see chaats, that's a snacks, India has a huge variety of chaats. If you go to just one city and move from one corner to another, you will find the taste changes. And the taste which changes, the core ingredient could be the same, but the magic of the fingertips and the magic of the spices each and every street vendor uses is really phenomenal. So we don't want to touch that, and we don't. Now in India, many people are suggesting we need to standardize those cuisines, but we are not in favor of it, because every vendor has come to that recipe from 3 to 4 generations, and just to make it trendy, we can't ask him to change the ingredient or spices. So that diversity really is a strength. Is a strength. So see, these are the pictures of parathas. I believe India is one of the richest destination or country with huge varieties of rotis and paratha. So you can get 1,000 varieties of stuffed parathas and rotis and naans. So the diversity, again, kebabs and curries. And we all know that many a times history says that India was invaded for its spices. So the spices, that's our strength. We consider it, that's our strength. And again, a very interesting part of India, which I cite many times when I go to other places. I was in New York, and I was with a very renowned chef. I'm forgetting his name. So he was from China. And I said, if you come to China, if you come to India, and taste our noodles, and that too with street vendors, you will forget your noodles. Because from traveling from China to India, and that to remote part of India, even if you go to rural India, you'll find chow mein, and spelling also changes. Many a times it will take the spelling of that particular area. Chow mein becomes chow mein, somewhere chow mein. It differs. So I think it's a good thing when with globalization, everything it changes. Why food can't change? Why food can't travel? So it's a good indicator. And also, this helps tourists to get a cultural variety. For example, a tourist cannot travel to all parts of India, but if he or she goes to one destination, he can find all the varieties of food. That's the strength street vendors provide. So that's the food, traveling food is becoming a good business for the street vendors. So this is what we were talking about with collaborating with many stakeholders brings better ecosystem, because when you just talk and don't engage with other stakeholders, things do not change. So in our organization, we fight with government, we fight with municipal corporations, but we also work with them. Because without working with them, we cannot have better results. So in the first picture, if you can see that, we started in 2016 a clean street food project with food safety department. In Delhi, we trained 25,000 street food vendors with food safety department. In this picture, which you can see that it's a picture of a hotel management institute, where after talking with Ministry of Tourism, we designed a training module for street food vendors, and the main component of this training was feeling of pride. Because what happens that these street food vendors do not understand their own importance. So we need to train them, and we need to train that they need to aspire. Unless and until they aspire, they cannot bring change. They cannot ask others to respect themselves unless they start respecting themselves. So in this training, we had put that as a major component. So again, this is WHO is a major stakeholder. So we work with WHO. So we train them on health and hygiene with WHO. This is again a picture of Bharat Parva. Now, Government of India organizes Bharat Parva. That's a celebration for country during Republic Day and Independence Day on 26th January and 15th August, and make a point that they always invite our street food vendors to be part of it. So this has really changed in a couple of years. Now they are recognized, and they are part of many of the national celebration and function. This is again a press conference with food safety CEO. These are again the pictures of how we engage with multinational companies, private sectors, departments. And this slide, my second last slide, is about technology. Before going to my slide, so what we believe in technology, more than promoting gastronomy tourism, we need to promote their livelihood. We need to design a technology which can help them to do better business. So we work on that. So in India also, this cashless thing is becoming the deep ones. Everybody is talking about a cashless, and how we can promote that cashless economy with street food vendors. We are working on it, and I think we need to work more on it to mainstream them. And so as you can see that in India, when we talk about food apps, in India we have food apps working like Food Panda, Swiggy. But personally I believe that those food apps are exactly food apps. They are not gastronomy apps. They do not understand the motive and the vision of gastronomy, so they just promote food. They never promote it as a gastronomy. So that's really lacking. And even when I talk to government people, they also have little understanding. As of now, yesterday when I was hearing about the presentation of Thailand and Belgium, so how people understand gastronomy tourism so well, but in our country, that really needs to be understood in a better way. And I'm happy that my learning has enriched a lot. So after this conference, I'll be able to convince more to my government and might work more on it. So we too have started one food app just for street vendors, which called Street Sati. Sati means friend, but it is not functional due to some technical and other resource crunches. But we are hopeful that by end of the year, we'll be able to do this. In my last slide, I'll be just very positive, despite the fact that when we see the CNN data, when we see other data, and when we always miss India in one of the top destinations, despite India being so rich in food, despite India having such a rich food tradition, I really miss that. But I'm a very optimistic person. I never lose faith, and I believe that. And things are improving. Even Minister of Tourism has started doing something on it. And what I believe is, where there is a will, there is a way. And after 5-10 years, I'm very much sure that India will be on the top of the globe, if not exactly on the top of the globe, but it will be there in gastronomy. It will be known in gastronomy tourism. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sanjita. You know, being a UNWTO official, I always have to remain impartial. But being a moderator, I have to do my job. That's why I was standing up just to see whether our dear friend Sanjita can, work towards the conclusion part, which you did. Thank you so much. I think what you have presented to us is a very touching story, a story that is quite innovative. Innovative in the sense that how street vendors, which usually classically thinking is that it's the informal sector, but now with your national effort, how you have made this gradually formal in a sense, it becomes increasingly a mainstream tourism product. A product may probably still only caters mainly to the domestic tourists, but hopefully that you will also go bit by bit into the international scene. Now, from the angle that you present this presentation, Sanjita, I noticed that the title is very interesting. You call it something like Protecting Livelihood and Promoting Culture. And these two aspects is exactly what I was referring to earlier. If you only do the protection of culture, probably the street vendors will not be that interested in your effort, because you need to think about their economic side of it, which is the livelihood of an average life of the street vendors. So congratulations that when you look at it, you look at both ways. And this is exactly where probably we can use your story to go further and to link with what the program says, that nowadays it is this street vendors' food which represents the real authenticity of a particular destination when it comes to the authenticity part of it. And more importantly, as the MC earlier mentioned, that authenticity is now becoming one of those new luxuries enjoyed by increasingly number of tourists, and particularly from tourists of different cultures. So congratulations with you. I would just ask you one simple question before pass on to the next speaker. And of course, I will leave the rest of the time for the floor to ask questions. Since you come from India, and India is extremely rich in cultural and historical monuments, but India as a tourist destination, as compared with this part of the world, probably you still have a lot of room for further growth. From your street vendor association on a national basis, if you wanted to ask your Indian minister the most wanted message that you want to convey from your association to the tourism ministry, what would be
So as I always
I
say,
heard from you adding technology. I heard from you that you wanted to continue your efforts on bringing back the local culture to the society. What else?
so it's just the same thing in one word, Susie. Our government need to plan inclusive tourism. It has to be inclusive, not just touching one and leaving others. When the plans and frameworks are inclusive, it will include everything. And it will improve social, economic, and cultural everything.
Excellent.
So that's the one.
I like this answer very much, because this will actually bring us to a much bigger picture. When you feel that growth is necessary, but growth has to be inclusive. And this is exactly what we try to advocate. And that is the attainment of one of the Sustainable Development Goals. And that is the growth. You can be rapid, but you have to be inclusive. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Dr. Sarop Pongprapa. He is the president of Dusitani College. Dr. Sarah, I didn't know that you are also the Director of Operations Thailand Education Component.
Thank you so much.
I think I better leave the floor first to you before I strike a joke here and there with you after your presentation. Let's welcome.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor for me to talk about gastronomy in my country. However, these 3 days would be the gastronomy experience for all of you who join Thailand. And on behalf of Thai people, may I say it once again, welcome to Thailand. Many of you may be familiar with the name Dusitani Hotel. Dusitani Hotel has been here 60 years already, but not many people know of Dusitani College. It's been founded 25 years ago by the owner of the Dusitani Group. She foresees that in the future, quality education would be a must, and especially for hospitality industry. So what we're trying to do is not to be an only educational institution. At the very bottom right, you can see the words beyond education, which means we go and we work with every single stakeholders in the society and in the country and in the world to make sure that hospitality industry would be there to stay. Next slide. The simple question is, first and foremost, before this question, do you think fish drink water? Who said yes? Thank you. Who said no? Who said, I will Google it first? Right. So thank you very much. The answer is yes, fish drink water, but very limited amount through the osmosis system. Because if it drinks, it lives in water. If it drinks the way we drink water, it would dilute all the mineral system in its body. Now, the reason for this question was, now we're used to finding the answer on our own. And you want to talk about gastronomy in Thailand, you go to TripAdvisor, you go to anything. I was in a conference in Munich, and everyone must go to Hofbrauhaus, right? For that beer and all the good food there. But then again, when I go to the rating agency, they tell me about other story, not only Hofbrauhaus, so somewhere else that I should go. And these technology help us in terms of refocus. Where do we want to go? But one thing remains though, how can we keep track? How can we keep this quality in place? Everyone can be a blogger, anyone can be the rater. I was working with Thai Airways International, and I said there will be two groups of people coming to use your service. The first one coming to use your service as usual, as a tourist, as a traveler, but the other group would go on your plane and rate your service. So instead of, when you've done something good, instead of giving you a plus, they just leave it there. But if you've done something wrong, there will be a minus on that. So quality will be compromised in this kind of rating. So how can you work with this social media? How can you work with expectation by keep the authenticity level high? So the question is, how do you live your life? There are two things in life you have to plan earlier in the long term: education and health. Education means that you have to have quite a goal. What kind of degree you'd like to pursue, and then you go ahead with that. But then again, health, if you eat something and you eat fast food, you eat something that's not good for your body, you pay for it at the very end. Value proposition is about keeping promises. So I think Thailand has done a good job in terms of keeping promises for those who come to visit Thailand. I have a friend of mine coming to Thailand, Dimitris Buhalis, some of you may know him. Every time he comes to Thailand, I have to take him to very good restaurants, and he eats a lot. And when he goes back to England, he's a professor there, he said, "Sarote, I miss Thai food. I miss Thai food a lot." And I said, "Is there anything else that you miss in terms of, gastronomy aspect, for instance?" So we discussed about this. We said, first, Thailand has done a good job in terms of gracious hospitality. Thailand has been known as the land of smile. And last year, I hosted a conference called Gracious Hospitality Conference, a small college in this side of the world trying to invite a big name, big shot to come in. But one thing that we get from this conference, Professor Jafar Jafari made it very clear to me. He said that before he came to my conference, he thought that hospitality is the soul of tourism. But after my conference, he said, Sarote, graciousness is in fact the soul of hospitality. So Thailand remained authentic in this aspect from the old days until now. The second thing that's very impressive is Thai food. Many people, when you go back to your country, you want to cook Thai food. But it's very difficult to cook, right? Very complicated. You can't find the ingredient. Even though you cook it, it's very like 10% that you experience in Thailand. So it makes you want to come back here again. And that's the impact of Thai gastronomy. Last but not least is the attraction. Yesterday, I met some professor, a good friend from Korea. He said, "Sarote, you have such a beautiful country." And I said, "Thank you. I'm Thai. I don't see that." I couldn't see a wood from a tree until someone told me, right? And somebody would like to come back and make a holiday here. But when you talk about gastronomy here, food is the center of the impression, right? But what really matters are the story of the whole dining phenomenon. What makes the food much more tasty is whom are you having it with, or the story accompanying it. We all want to enjoy authentic experience, whether it's classic, artisan, fusion, chef table, or even molecular. These are all authenticity. You cannot say that fusion is not authentic. It comes from creativity. So we want our expectation before you take off from your country and you want to participate in this. The difficult thing is your client become your work colleague now. And how can my student, who's going to be the owner of the business, keep high level of satisfaction of their customer? As in the educational institution, we work with all the stakeholders. We work with the government in terms of the rule and regulations. We work with the business units for their growth, as you mentioned, product development. We work with NGO and especially social enterprise to make sure that everything is sustainable. Now, when I work with the stakeholders. This is one of the examples. This is the Italian travel agency Make a Fam Trip Experience Sharing Day on the 22nd of October last year. The Zitani College hosted it. I work with Tourism Authority of Thailand in Rome office, And the director said, Sarote, how can we impress these travel agents? I said, let's bring them to my college and let them cook and let them eat their food. So this is something like eye-opening, how authenticity could be created using, this co-creation of values. TAT, their duty is to want to make sure that people come to Thailand and have a good time. I, as a host, make sure that Thailand has quality things to offer. The other thing is co-creation of the experience through partnership. We partner with many groups, as I mentioned. A partnership is based on mutual trust, openness, share risk, and share rewards. So how do you define and prioritize your values? The picture in the middle is when Dusit Thani College has the privilege to work with the Royal Initiative Sea Farm in the province of Phetchaburi. It's been initiated by Her Majesty the Queen Sirikit of King Rama IX. She foresees that the livestock in the sea would be extinct very soon if we still do this kind of fishery things. So she said that fish farm would be the answer. Now, after the fish farm, you have all the products, right? And how can you make sure that you add value creation to those products? So we go in and help them with the study to develop the millfish noodle mixed with green caviar seaweed. And it becomes very delicious. And would be in the store, in the main store in Thailand, all over the world, all over Thailand very soon. And we have a plan to export it once we have the authorization for that. Or with Thai Airways International, I was serving as one of the board member of Thai Airways International in the customer service. As I mentioned that, you have to cope with your clients when they comes in. So we initiate this, the program called Graciousness in the Sky. Thai Airways is the first national carrier and first airline in the world to add the aspect of Thai gastronomy and gastronomy into its service, first-class service. It's not easy, but it can be done. What we're trying to do is to add the food styling skill, is to add the storytelling skills to make sure that the flight attendants can go beyond their ability. Make sure that they are well represented in terms of the good ambassadorship. Because when I talked to them, I said, Thai Airways International is like the ambassador to the country. When you go there, TAT, make sure that, or the Ministry of Tourism, make sure that these people come to Thailand, but Thai Airways is the first gate that they would experience. So make sure that the experience would be there and very impressive. Einstein said, if you cannot explain simply, you don't understand it well enough. So my question is, what is your value proposition in terms of the service provider, the product developer, or even the traveler yourself? What kind of thing that you have? Why should you visit Thailand? Why should you visit the country? What value would you bring? What kind of co-creation that you can bring to my country, to Thailand? In the years before, I said maybe Thailand would need a lot of help from our international alliances. But I am certain that one day, Thailand can stand on her own feet and become very strong and very well known. And that the dream is being proven by this conference, that at least one aspect of Thai tourism, which is the Thai gastronomy, is now being recognized. I'm not trying to give you a lecture, but I'm a teacher. So, I just want to make sure that when you co-create a value proposition, what kind of market are you looking for? Value experience for customer experience? What kind of thing that you offer? What kind of benefits that the market will derive from the product or service of yours? Alternative and differentiation, and of course, what kind of proof? I'm not going to tell you about story about Thai gastronomy because you're going to experience one more day here in Thailand. But I would strongly recommend that you stay here behind for a month And you can go to northern part of Thailand, go to the eastern part, go to the southern part. They have a lot of tracks of gastronomy. I talked to a friend of mine, perhaps in the future we can do something about religious gastronomy, something that we can do. But now, come back to the question here, that as a college, as an educational institution, we make sure that the standards stay, the old knowledge stay, and we co-create it with the technology. We control the quality, but we not control the creativity. Technology is here to stay, I understand that. But it's very easy to dehumanize a customer to use the check-in counter at the airlines. It's like using the automat machine. You don't have to experience any emotional turbulence there. But what is the charms of the real gastronomy is that you come here and you experience the culture. And where it's rich in culture is very emotional. And if you enjoy the emotional ride, something would be there for you to explore. So, is the culture and tradition being preserved and being passed on? Are you environmental friendly, sustainability friendly? What kind of food technology that you would employ to enhance the experience of food gastronomy? Are you consider them to have good health and wellness after they leave your shop or restaurant? Because I told my instructor in my college, saying that you cook something that make me eat less medicine. I don't want to eat anything that I like, and at the very end, the doctor prescribed me all the drugs and medicines. So Thailand also offers this, because Thai food is full of herbal things and good for your life. That's why I recommend you to stay behind for a month. And the last but not least, you have to have the people with the right mindset. Thailand, for some reason, very lucky to have good people with the right mindset for service industry. We just want to make sure that the smile that you see is really genuine, and it's really genuine. You can see that when Thai people smile, they smile a lot here. And for those of you who are not familiar with this smiling, it could become very peculiar. Why are you smiling in a time like this? You know how many ways to say you and I in Thai? There are 19 levels to say you and I in Thai. But then again, these are all part of the culture that you can enjoy. And the food culture is one of the big parts, especially the Thai gastronomy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarot. Thank you so much. I think you have presented a very comprehensive perspective, a perspective that really links how a tourist can enrich his or her experiences by looking for the values. And I remember one of the slides you mentioned the word why. It's not just eating the food for the sake of eating it. You have to go beyond the food. You have to go for the values that you can find. But that value probably doesn't come that automatic. The value needs to be, sometimes people think that if you have nice food, we just go there and take it. But being the educator and being a college president, I don't think that is what they do. What they do is to try to create the values behind the basic food. It is sometimes even to, as you put it, co-create the experiences and the values behind. Just for the audience, for your information, I happen to be his classmate back in many, many years in the UK. And he ended up as a PhD, and I ended up only as a best student of a master's degree. But today is my chance of taking revenge, and I want to ask you a question rather than you asking me being a professor. You mentioned, Khun Sarat, that you have all these initiatives that after your theoretical analysis of the 6 stages that you come up with certain stakeholders like the Thai Airways or some other partners. Did you have difficulties in initiating these kind of initiatives? Because why should they collaborate with you? And what is actually the key in order to make this type of partnership a win-win situation?
Because everyone is here to be tested. And I believe that to remain sustainable, you have to have good partnership. And perhaps if you choose the right partner, just like marriage, right? If you have the good partner, you make it sustainable. And I don't see this as a revenge, but I would put it simply, just like when I talked to you 20 years ago, that we have good friends to help us to go very long way. And I don't think this business partner is only based on mutual trust alone, but it's based on the long-term relationships. Mm-hmm. And of course, I believe in win-win-win situation, which means I win, you win, and the society win. One thing that I didn't have a chance to mention that is I believe in long-term consequence rather than short-term. That's right. Because I teach ethics in my business school for 20 years. I have one of my students who managed to buy AC Milan football team. Mm-hmm. And the other one is now serving his term in the prison because of the short-term gain rather than long-term sustainability.
Thank you very much. Revenge taken. But I'll leave all the rest of the questions to be asked by your Thai students who are sitting over there later on during the session. Now let's welcome the last speaker in our session, Mr. Sharan Vaidya. Am I correct, the pronunciation? Who is the head of the Airbnb experiences for Southeast Asia and India. That's a very interesting title of a position using the word experiences. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I do think I have a pretty interesting job title, and I think I have a pretty interesting job as well. So I'm having quite a lot of fun. And we'll try to have a lot of fun during our session as well. We'll try to keep it a little interactive. I think listening to me speak for 10 or 15 minutes is kind of boring. So I'm going to randomly call on people to answer questions, so listen up. 10 years ago, so 2008, 3 guys named Brian, Joe, and Nate had an air mattress. And said, hey, we've got tens of thousands of dollars of credit card debt. What could we possibly do to make a little bit of money so that we can pay our rent next month? And they created this website. It was originally called airbedandbreakfast.com. And 10 years later, more than 300 million guests have used Airbnb in some way. How many people have used Airbnb here? Hands up. Great. Thank you. How many people, even if you haven't used it, how many people have heard of it? Cool. For 10 years now, so 300 million guests that have used Airbnb in some way, we've been opening up new and interesting travel experiences for them. We're fostering powerful cross-cultural connections between our hosts, who have been opening up their homes, and our guest community. People from all over the world have been using Airbnb as a way to connect with that community. An esteemed gentleman on stage yesterday referred to Airbnb as a booking engine. We, internally at Airbnb, we think that's the last thing we possibly are. If we had to describe Airbnb, we would call it a global travel community. Community is the #1 thing I work on every day when I come into the office. And I'll walk through a couple of examples of why that is. So we had the homes business for a long time. In November of 2016, our CEO, Brian Chesky, got up on stage, and he announced the launch of experiences. This idea that we were already making magical travel experiences with our homes business. What's the natural extension of that? Can we allow locals to create unique handcrafted activities that Airbnb guests could book? activities that would really immerse people in communities, immerse people in lives. Was there a way for Airbnb experience hosts to share their lives, their passions, their interests, their hobbies, and forge those powerful cross-cultural connections, again, in a different format? Was there a way for experience hosts to become entrepreneurs? Could they create small businesses on the Airbnb platform? The answer is yes. We launched the experiences business about 18 months ago. We launched in 12 cities with about 500 experiences. As you can see, as you will see later, rather, we've expanded significantly. We're now about 70 markets with more than 10,000 experiences offered on our platform. We carved out experiences as a different business unit. So Airbnb, we now think of our company as 4 different businesses. We've got the homes business, which has been around 10 years and very well established. We've got experiences, which I run for Southeast Asia and India. We've got a luxury business, which is high-end homestays and experiences. And we've also carved out our China business. I don't think it's any surprise that the China outbound market is a really important one for us, as it is for many people in this room. So we're quite optimistic about the future of all 4. We are at a gastronomy forum. Again, it's no surprise that food and drink experiences play an outsized role on our platform. It's 30% of all our experiences globally are in the food and drink category. In Asia Pacific, that number is even higher. It's actually 50%. Again, no surprise. We've all known for a long time that a primary reason why people want to visit Asia Pacific is for the food. And this has been discussed at length already. I actually want to walk through a couple of really cool experiences we have on our platform. Anyone from Italy in the room? OK, unfortunately not. Italy is one of my favorite food destinations. We've got this experience that takes place a few hours outside of Rome. It's hosted by a grandmother who's 85 years old. You spend an afternoon with her learning how to make pasta. It's really fun. This town hasn't had as many tourists as it used to in its heyday, and this experience has actually been driving a lot of traffic their way. And this experience host is on track to make about $60,000 this year on Airbnb as an experience host. I know there are a lot of people from Spain in the room. I'm sorry I couldn't find an experience in Bilbao or San Sebastian because we just launched there, but here's a great one from Barcelona. It's a dinner party, but the location changes every time. So you book it on Airbnb, and then a few hours before the event takes place, you'll get a message saying, meet here. And the location changes every time. Sometimes it's a rooftop in Barcelona, or sometimes it's a penthouse that they've rented out for the occasion. And after dinner, it's a 9-course meal prepared by a chef. And after dinner, it kind of evolves into this DJ-led party, which is really fun. Anyone from Korea? I have met some people from Korea here, so if you get a chance, please do spend some time taking this experience in Seoul. Young Chul is a former actress turned chef. She studied in Japan and returned to Seoul and opened her own restaurant. She's identified experiences as a way to address slack capacity. So she knows that on certain days of the week, she doesn't really get customers from 6 to 9 p.m. So she's created an experience out of it. And it's supplementing her income stream for the restaurant in a really great way. This is a fantastic experience hosted by a gentleman named Toshi-san. He has unique access into the Tsukiji market. He has relationships with suppliers that go back decades. And he's able to take you into this really magical place and spend some time talking to the suppliers, understanding the supply chain of the food involved, and really giving you a sense of the community that's part of this market. You shop for ingredients with Toshi-san, and you take them back to his little cafe, and you prepare a meal together. This is one of my favorite ones. I talked about unlocking entrepreneurship in Southeast Asia. This is probably, there's probably no better example. It's a group of students who started hosting as a way to improve their English. They're in Ho Chi Minh City. They're like, OK, we want to meet guests from all over the world. Let's host an experience, and we'll practice our English. they charge about $50 a person for this experience. As they started hosting, they started to realize, hey, this is actually a really good way to make a lot of money. After a few months of hosting, they're on track to cover many years' worth of tuition at their college with the proceeds from Airbnb experiences. And it's just really fun. There are a bunch of students, and they take you partying. And that includes, obviously, the fantastic street food that's on offer in Ho Chi Minh City. I couldn't do this presentation without at least one example from Bangkok, my favorite city. Kim is a 25-year-old entrepreneur who started hosting on Airbnb about 6 months ago. She heard about Airbnb last year, decided to open this experience. It's like, okay, maybe Airbnb experiences can take care of my startup costs. Like, I don't have to spend on marketing. I can automatically get traffic sent to my school. And she's been really like a tremendous success. I took her experience a few days ago, and it is really transformational. It's not like any other cooking class you've really ever taken. It's more of like a journey through Thai cuisine and learning about the history of why things are the way they are today. It's quite fantastic. We have a couple of metrics that we measure all experiences by. Whenever we get a submission in for experience host, we're asking ourselves, does this person have expertise in their area? Do they have some sort of unique local access that no one else can achieve? And thirdly, and probably most importantly, are they a good host? This idea of hospitality is core to what Airbnb stands for. Be a host is one of our core values of the company, and it's something that we look for in a lot of our experience hosts. We're growing pretty quickly. That's just a quick comparison of how our homes business grew over the last 10 years. And at the same point in time, our experiences business is growing much, much faster. So we're pretty excited about where we're headed with the business. This metric is another one of the most important things I worry about every day. 91% of all our experiences are rated 5 stars. And that's a metric that we intend to keep at that level or even better. As I mentioned, we launched in a very select number of cities. At this point, we've announced publicly that we want to be in 1,000 markets by the end of the year, and eventually just open up everything, including apparently Easter Island and Iceland as well. So I'm pretty excited about the journey that's ahead. I wanted to wrap up with a very brief overview of what we call our passion categories. I don't have a slide on this, but we have a category of experiences called social impact experiences, where Airbnb does not take a fee, and 100% of the proceeds go directly to the nonprofit organization. We actually have a few social impact experiences right here in Bangkok that are in the food and drink category. It's an organization named Courageous Kitchen that looks to upskill at-risk children and teach them cooking skills and English language skills. They host a fantastic food and drink experience. We're after more in the food and drink space. How about this idea of booking a table on Airbnb and showing up at a restaurant and having dinner with 7 people that you've never met before? It's something that we know resonates very well with the Airbnb community, and it's something that you should look for in the coming months, not just globally, but also in Southeast Asia. I'll wrap up with a quick word about why food and drink as a category is so important to us. I think this idea of breaking bread with someone forges those powerful cross-cultural connections. When you sit down, when you have a meal, you have a drink with someone, it builds these lasting relationships that really no other type of experience can replicate. One of our hosts here in Bangkok hosts a dinner experience at her house, and it's really like a way for her to make friends. We asked her once about her guests and what types of guests she likes to receive. And she says, like, yeah, I love having all my guests. I think about my guests as friends that I haven't made yet. So it's this idea that the community element of Airbnb is really, really powerful, and it is really what sets us apart. And I'd say that is our unique value proposition as far as food and drink experiences go. Thank you very much. Feel free to reach out and say hi if you see me anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you very much. I think you have given us a presentation as well as a story that really has a cultural touch. Unlike most of the hotels, when you come and then you stay in a concrete and then you go back and you don't remember which hotel you stayed and which city you actually stayed. But through this kind of a story that you have just presented, you almost became a local person that has experienced a little bit of the cultural touch. And that is probably what we need to look at in terms of the overall gastronomy tourism aspect. Now, I won't ask you a question. I will leave because I think I've asked too many questions and taken too much time. I'll open the floor so that we can have a little bit of interactive session for 15 minutes. And now I give the floor to everyone who wanted to ask questions to our 3 distinguished delegates. I'll give the floor first to there, and then I'll come to you.
Hi.
Can you identify yourself first? Thank you.
Damian Serrano, Associate Professor from San Sebastian. I think some of you know me. I was moderator yesterday. My question is for Airbnb representative. It's 2 simple questions. The first question is, what is the average of experiences that you have based on gastronomy in the worldwide? What's the weight of gastronomy experiences in Airbnb experiences? And the second one, how many, or what is the average, how many of these experiences are offered by little companies that are legal, the legality? How many of them offer services that are legal in their own countries, on their own local cities and places? Thank you.
Sure, thank you for the question. So I think if I understood the first question, it was about what proportion of our overall experiences are in food and drink. So globally, that number is 30%. So if you say roughly we have 10,000 experiences globally, so there's about 3,000 experiences are in food and drink. In Asia-Pacific, that number is higher. So 50% of all Asia-Pacific experiences are in the food and drink category. So I think that would be like around maybe slightly less than 1,000 food and drink experiences in Asia-Pacific. With regards to which markets are doing really well for us in that space, it's no surprise that Tokyo was the market that we invested the most in this region, and it's doing really well in this space. Bali and Bangkok are very close behind, and I'm super excited to see them grow even more. Your second question was about regulations. So different regulations apply to different experiences on our platform. So for example, if you propose an experience where you want to take your guests inside a national monument, then it's pretty clear that we will require the host to show us a tour guide license. For most food and drink experiences, it's the same. So, in the example of cooking classes, we will ask to see like a business registration license. Like, do they have a rental permit for the space to operate it as a cooking facility? And those regulations vary widely from market to market, but we do work very closely with hosts to make sure that they have the necessary permits.
Thank you, sure. Let me ask you to have the next question.
Okay, so this is for Mr. Airbnb guy.
Please identify yourself, please.
My name is Proud, and I'm a tour guide, and my manager is behind me. So Airbnb, short-term renting, condominiums and apartments is illegal in Thailand. So, and what approach is Airbnb doing to actually abolish something illegal in Thailand? Because it's really illegal and it's becoming a big problem. How do I know this? Because my clients tell me this, and I never tell my clients that's illegal in Thailand.
Before I give the floor to Sharon, I would let's restrict our questions relating to the subject matter of this particular session, which is how to enhance the value propositions through our experiences of gastronomy tourism. And I think our questions must be restricted to this, unless, Sharon, you would like to respond briefly on this.
Yeah, at a very high level. I mean, we do run our homes business and our experiences business very separately. I couldn't answer much about homes even if I wanted to. But I will point out that we have signed over 500 agreements, collaboration agreements with governments from all around the world on data sharing, tax collection, and all these other various matters. We remain open to all of those things in all of the markets that we operate in. I emphasize that we are a community-driven company, and part of that means that we have a responsibility towards all the communities we operate in to be responsible partners. So, yeah, that's all I would say.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
If no questions asked, I'll ask one question to Sharon as well.
Sure.
When you started this cultural touch in your whole package of experiences, how did you deal with the economic side of it? Because the experience that each guest would encounter is more into enriching their cultural elements of the stay. But how did you actually get this into your program from the non-economic side of it?
I'm not 100% certain I understand the question, but I'll give it a shot, and maybe you can tell me if you need a follow-up. So the commercial arrangements for, the economic arrangements for hosting an Airbnb experience are pretty straightforward. The host gets to choose what price they would like to set their experience at. We are an open marketplace, so you can find experiences at every price range. For example, we have a $9 surfing experience in Bali that's hosted by a 5-time national Indonesian surfing champion. On the other hand, we have sake tasting experiences in Tokyo that are well north of $100 per person. So there's a wide range. Airbnb's fees for those experiences are 20%. In exchange, hosts get automatic insurance protection for themselves and all of their guests. They have access to our world-class customer experience teams that are on standby 24/7. And they have access to our incredible trust and safety teams that are always looking out for things like payment fraud, which are a big issue in Asia Pacific. So those are, I guess, some of the economic things involved. We don't ever tell hosts what to price their experience at, but we will always be ready to offer suggestions and helpful advice.
Thank you. I see, yeah, please.
Mr. Shujing, my name is Mr. Mason, and I'm concerned about sharing this gastronomic experience with a lot of people. I like the idea that Airbnb has on experiences. I'm wondering if someone, an entrepreneur, was to create a website, say along the major highways, targeting people who travel on the major highways, because most tourists, that as far as I know, they do travel on major highways. So now you go to the website and you're looking for food. And for every town, every city along the website there are people who specialize in different types of gastronomical experiences. Do you think that would be of interest to anyone at all, or I should not waste my time and energy trying to get all the food people to sit back and say, hey, I'm going to make this little video explaining about how we make this food here, and then try to encourage you to come to my place, because there might be 100 other people in this one town here or within, you know, X miles of radius who have something similar. So whereas I, as a tourist, could go here and say, I'm going to go to Bangkok, how many people are having good food? And I could look around on the website and watch your video, your 1 minute, and say, hey, I think I'll go there. And then as you're talking about the rating, get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars after I've been there. With something like that, does it make sense? Is it worth wasting time on?
I'm the moderator, so I will first pass the question to our presenters here, whoever wanted to pick up.
I believe in why everyone look at me. I believe in creativity. I don't know whether it's answered your question or not, but in my time, I was brought up before the time of the internet. I never get used to the internet. I never get used to communication devices like this. But I get adjusted. But now I learn to work with the younger generation, who's native, IT native, and they're much more advanced than me. And what I'm trying to do is try to adjust it myself, migrate myself to their world. And I think that's the way to stay. Airbnb, I use it, and it's very convenient. I don't know whether it's something else that comes along. But when I work with my students, I make sure that you are open up for something, quite a challenge in the future. Maybe there will be some job for you in some business that never been created yet. To come back to your questions, whether or not it's going to be something useful, I believe that it could be developed in the way that you think is useful. But that's only one aspect from me. I'm certain that somebody might want to add in on this.
Well, put yourself in their shoes when you drive in Europe or wherever, and suddenly you wanted to stop at the highway and wanting to have a food. So what do? Usually you pick up the mobile, you check TripAdvisor, who is ranking higher around 10 kilometers around here, and then you will go to the top one. So whether it is useful or not, you judge yourself. I think it is.
I think it is also, and I want to thank you for saying that. I do believe it is. And I think also with the idea of allowing everyone to become involved in earning part-time income in tourism, okay, knowing that, hey, I'm just a little guy, but I can go register on this website. It didn't cost me anything, and just upload my presentation. And then if the people like my presentation, they'll come by my place. If they don't like it, they'll go to the next guy. And then I can look and see someone else, hey, I think I like his food. And I'll go there and try to steal his recipe. Or increase my sales appeal by watching what you're doing and adding it to my speech. And then someone maybe over in India would see the same thing and say, well, I'm interested in traveling around and eating food. And gastronomy would be, if there's millions and billions of people in India, that would be a very interesting project for someone who likes food, because then you'd have one central place that you could go to anywhere just about and find food to eat. And that allowing local people to earn income part-time is sustainable, if you ask me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And if I don't see any more questions to be asked, anyway, our distinguished presenters are still around, and you can ask after this session. And on that note, let me once again thank all the presenters for their very, very educational and insightful contributions. And I think it is the main message that they are trying to present to you through this session is that we need to look for the values. And that value probably is something about the cultural touch, because it is only this experience that you will get, not the physical food, but the cultural touch that will really stay in the minds of the tourists when they go back. With that, I thank all the presenters once again. Thank you.